All right, so far we've got our monster sort of gliding across our maze. Not very interesting, right? He's just sort of skating across there. What we really want is for him to actually walk, and we know this has animations with it, so let's go ahead and turn on some of these animations. It's going to take a little bit of work, but it's going to be worth it in the end. All right, so to get this to work, I want to show you something real quick before we jump too far into this. I'm going to go into this particular character. Remember, he's under character, and then he's under skeleton skin. And you'll notice, if you click on the rig tab, that he's set to generic rather than what you'd expect, which is humanoid. I'm going to show you why that is. It just has to do with the way they made him. I remember, got this from the asset store. I didn't make this model. And so let me go into configure and show you what the issue is. And it's going to complain, and that's fine. You can see that all of the expected bones are there, but we've got this weird sort of bone here that goes to the sword, and that's really not expected, right? We expect this sort of unbroken skeletal system. So we're going to leave this the way that the designers intended it, and we're going to change this back to generic. And I'll click apply, and I'll need to come in here and zoom back out again because it stuck me in the middle of a wall for whatever reason. All right, so we just need to enable the animations on this guy. So to do that, we need an animator. Now we have one. We got one automatically when we imported him. So we're a part of the way there, but it doesn't have a controller. So let's add a controller, and I'm going to put this in the Fantasy Monster folder so that I keep everything together. And he's in skeleton, so I'll create an animator controller, and I'll call this Fantasy Monster Animator Controller. Wordy, I know, but remember we named our script Fantasy Monster Controller. So if I name my animator controller Fantasy Monster Controller, it's going to get confusing. So I'm going to use this nice long term here, and that's fine. So now we just need Fantasy Monster. We want that controller to be on here, so I'm going to drag it and drop it on there. And there we go. So now we've got this Fantasy Monster Animator Controller. So let's open that up in Animator, and we can see it's empty. So let's create our empty state, and this will be idle. Probably not something he's going to be doing very much, but we'll go ahead and create an idle state, and hopefully at some point we'll use it. We need to drag a motion in here, so let's find all of our motions. Again, it's under Fantasy Monster Skeleton, and then it's under the Annie folder, and then you'll find all of his animations here. So you can see there's attack, damage, death, idle, knockback, etc. We're after idle in this case. Open up the idle prefab and find the animation, and there it is. So let's click back on our state, grab idle, drag it and drop it into the motion slot, and we're all set with idle. And I just like cleaning this stuff up a little bit. Now, we've got our nice idle thing there. It's fine. Let's save this and take a look at it. It's going to look pretty silly. That's okay. We'll at least see that the idle state works. Now, he's immediately going to start moving because of the nav mesh, but we can see that he is in fact animated and his idle state is working. So he's idly skating along, which is an improvement. Remember, just take it one step at a time. If you try to solve all of your development problems at the same time, you're going to go nuts. So just shoot for little changes and little improvements as you go, and take those little victories. All right, so we've got our guy moving now, but he's not moving the way we really want him to. So we don't really want idle to be doing much of anything. Let's go into idle. The first thing I want to do is make another transition, or excuse me, make another state. And let's go ahead and make a state for walking. So I'll call this one walking. And we'll go ahead and add the animation for it. So you'll find it here, skeleton walk. There it is. Again, click walking, drag the animation up there, and drop it in there. And now we're going to need a way to get to it. So to make this happen, I'm going to create a parameter, a variable. So go up here to your parameters tab. By default, it probably has layers up here. So you want to select parameters, and we're going to add one. I'm going to call this, it's going to be a float, and I'm going to call it move speed. I'm choosing this name somewhat deliberately because if you look inside of our animations, our states, there's something that already there called speed. And I know in our introductory, I guess I should call it the introductory class, the beginning Unity class, we made everything speed, but I think that's kind of confusing to have speed and then speed. Which one are you talking about? This one controls the speed of the animation, and this is the variable called speed. So I'm going to make this move speed so that we can tell them apart easily. And that's going to be 0 by default. So we're going to make our transition from idle to walking. And what we'll do in this case is we'll make the transition when move speed is greater than 0.1. And then we'll do the same thing back. Now, I don't really know if we're even going to use this or not, but we'll go ahead and set it up. It's not like it's all that hard. So when it's less than 0.1, he's going to transition back into idle. Now, one of the things that I need to change on this is the exit time. I need to do this on both of them. So you want to turn this off. What this is doing is it's going to force the animation while it's checked. It's going to force the animation to finish before a change state is allowed. And that's not what we want. We want it to change the state immediately. And it's just going to do its blend. Remember how this works is it's got this long, rather long animation. His idle cycle is almost 5 seconds long, which is really long. And then we've got this fairly short walking cycle here. So as soon as he starts moving, we really want him to transition out, and we don't want to wait a whole 5.5, almost 6 seconds before he transitions, because it's going to look weird. You saw it as he was, sort of standing there idly, but he was skating along in space. That looks weird. So that's not what we want. Turn those has exit time settings off. All right, let's see how this, we need to do something to this, don't we? We can run this, but it's not going to do anything because we're never changing the state. So let's make an addition to our script. We just need to get a reference to our animator. And the way I usually do this is I use underscore for private variables. That's just, it's not a requirement, but it is a convention that you're going to see used rather often. Okay, so in start, and I'll go ahead and set the reference using get component. And since there can be only one of those, then this is pretty safe. And then I'm going to set our state. As soon as he starts moving, as soon as you set agent's destination, that skeleton is going to start moving. So let's do animator.setFloat. I'm going to use the overload that has the name in it, so that's what it looks like. Remember, you can hit your up and down arrow keys to get your various overloads. We're going to use that one, and we called it move speed. Be careful that you spell it correctly, because there's not going to be any help on this one. To make sure you spelled it correctly. And now we want a float value. I'm going to set it equal to 1. Now this is not going to control the speed of his walk. It's just literally a state machine variable. I could make it 0.02 if I wanted to. In fact, I'm going to put an F on here so that it absolutely knows it's a float. So this is arbitrary. I don't want you to get caught up in move speed thinking that that's actually going to make him walk faster the faster you set it. That's not true. All we're doing is we're changing the state. So we're setting this so that as soon as it's above 0.1, he's actually going to change state. All right, so save this, switch back over to Unity. If you didn't make any mistakes, you should see no compilation errors down here, and we ought to be able to run this and see him transition, and he is actually walking, but there's a problem. It seems like his walk state does not loop, which is unfortunate, but not altogether unexpected when you get things from the asset store. All right, so there he is, just sort of skating. So again, slight, small victory, one little step at a time. Let's go fix this. Now I'll go ahead and run it again, and I'll switch to animator so you can see it happen. You can see he's walking, and you can see that we run out of walk, so there's no loop on it. If I pull this down so that we can see them side by side, perhaps, we'll run it, and now you can see he spends almost no time in idle, immediately moves to walking. So that state machine is working the way it's supposed to. I'll move this back up here where I prefer it. And now let's go fix this walk animation. So come down here into assets, find it. There's the walk animation. I'm going to come up here and click edit. And I'm going to find loop time. I'm going to click it. I'm going to click apply. And hopefully that's all I need to do. And now we're lumbering along quite nicely. And if I switch over to my animator, I can see that that is in fact cycling. So that is perfect. So now we've got our guy, and I think even his stride looks pretty good. So we lucked out. Whoever made this did a pretty good job. So he's lumbering along. It's unfortunate that you can't see him behind that wall, but I guess that's to be somewhat expected. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we've got him moving. Of course, when he gets to the end, he's going to stop and he's just going to walk in place. So maybe that's the next thing we fix. When he gets to his destination, he stands idle for a minute and then maybe does something else. So remember, the crux of this is artificial intelligence. We haven't really said a lot about it. It's been mostly mechanics, but we've got him moving along. If we were to change his starting point, let's do that real quick. That's kind of interesting, right? If we change where he starts. Oh, I need the scene view, don't I? Here we go. If we change where he starts, then he'll take a different path, and that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So let's use the move tool, and let's just put him down here. And make it a little more interesting. Let's see where he goes now. So now he's going to find the shortest path to getting there. So that's really what this nav mesh agent is doing for us. It knows the destination is here because we set the transform. It's just going to find the shortest path to get there. And he just walked through a wall, so that's something we're going to have to adjust later. So I'm kind of glad you saw that. All right, so we'll make our next modification. Next, I suggest it will probably be to have him stop walking once he gets there and maybe go to someplace else.